Good morning and welcome back to Indiana Insiders this Sunday morning. Congressman Luke Messer is our guest live this morning. You unveiled a letter last Wednesday talking about nominating President Trump for the Nobel Prize for his work on North Korea. 18 other Republicans signed on. Why?
Listen, events in North Korea and South Korea on the Korean Peninsula have been extraordinary in recent weeks. And I think the only reason the North Korean dictator is coming to the table is because President Trump has stared him down. President Trump's peace through strength policies are working. And frankly, it would have been unimaginable just a few weeks ago that the North and South Korean leader would even speak. That alone began a process of meeting publicly, embracing, talking about a unified Korean peninsula. And I think it's bigger than just North Korea. Look, ISIS is now on the run. The president's talking about getting much tougher on Iran with the Iran nuclear deal, which never should have happened in the first place. I know maybe some liberals' heads might explode when I mention that the president ought to be considered for the Nobel Peace Prize, but President Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize for a little more than running a glamorous campaign for the president. President Trump has demonstrated some real progress in Korea.
Now, one of the things he's got to confront is the Mueller investigation. Do you want to see that go to a conclusion, or are you for firing Mueller?
Look, we now are a couple years in almost to this investigation, and I've not yet talked to one Hoosier who believes the Russians made them vote for either candidate for President of the United States in 2016. This investigation seems to be doing what often happens in these investigations, is when the first effort, the effort to determine whether there was any real collusion with Russia, and all evidence appears there was none. It's now moved into all kinds of peripheral things that had nothing to do with that. So I think the investigation should end. I think the president has the authority to end it, and I'm supportive of whatever decision he makes there.
So if he fires Mueller, you're supporting that?
If he fires Mueller, he has the authority to do it. Yeah, and I would support that.
We've got some questions from some viewers. One from Sharon Blair, who asks, how do you plan to tackle the opioid epidemic, which is declared a public health emergency? Sharon's got a good point there. It's probably one of the biggest things confronting families across the state.
It is an enormous crisis. It knows no socioeconomic bounds in communities across the state. I've talked to mayors who have told me that 80% of all crime runs in their community are based on drug-related crimes resulting from the opioid epidemic. In Muncie, I talked to leadership there that said as much as 10% of their kids in the NIC unit in their hospital are born addicted to drugs because they're born to mothers who are already addicted. So a lot has to be done. I applaud what President Trump has already done, declaring a national emergency, and then I helped President Trump pass the recent funding bill, which include billions of dollars to deal with the opioid epidemic. Tens of millions of dollars will come to Indiana. There's no single silver bullet answer, though, Kevin. I mean, it's going to require a coordinated effort with law enforcement, with the public health community and hospitals. You're going to have the spiritual community, the religious leaders of these communities come together with our schools as well. I do think there's 3 or 4 policy things, though, that we can do. One, we need to secure our border because some of these drugs are coming from across the border. So we not only have national security and economic security reasons, we now have public health reasons to secure our border. We need to work with the physician community so that they're prescribing drugs more carefully, because many of the people who become addicted, they were just trying to deal with pain, and then they find themselves in this tragedy. Treatment will be important too.
Do we really believe the wall will be cost effective, Congressman?
Look,
I mean, it's billions of dollars to build that.
If securing our border and enforcing our immigration laws was unpopular, Kevin, Hillary Clinton would be president. I mean, President Trump campaigned on this promise, and he intends to fulfill it. By the way, this didn't used to be partisan at all. When they were senators, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Chuck Schumer, all voted to secure our border. So I think President Trump has this right. We started funding for the border in the spending bill that just passed. I, of course, voted for that to help the president get started on securing our southern border. And I think, again, there are national security reasons to do it. There are economic security reasons to do it so that we stop illegal immigration, and even public health reasons as we have this drug scourge that's coming from the southern border.
Another question's coming in here. This one is from Pat. Luke, like all other GOP candidates, will you continue to stand by and take no vote against gun violence while hundreds of people are killed each day, and including, obviously, an officer, as we were talking before we went on the air, from Terre Haute?
Kevin,
recently.
I support the Second Amendment. I think that all gun bans have ever shown historically is that they keep guns away from law-abiding citizens. I, though, like a whole lot of Hoosiers, am offended by the idea that you can't somehow stand up for the Second Amendment and also look out for our kids in school. And I was one of the lead authors with Susan Brooks and working with the President on the School Safety Act that we just passed in Congress that will make our schools safer. In my district, Southwestern Shelby High School has been named one of the safest schools in America. And their recipe is essentially this: secure the physical boundaries of the school, train both the students and teachers so that they know how to deal with a tragedy if it would occur, and then coordinate with the local law enforcement. There, the sheriff's office in Shelby County has cameras where they can see in real time what's happening at that school. We need more of that.
Down to just seconds, but can you represent all Hoosiers if elected U.S. Senate?
Well, absolutely. I've done it. Listen, we're right now charging for the Senate primary. We're going to get that done in a few days. But you represent everybody when you're in the U.S. Senate. The people that voted for you and the people that didn't. And that's exactly what I intend to do.
Thank you for joining us this morning. It's always nice to see you, and good luck on Tuesday.
Thanks, Kevin.
Of course, I say that to all the candidates, but but we want to skip over the poll. You know, just yesterday I was in Vandalia, Illinois, where Lincoln was there, and he had a quote when asked about his ambitions. He said, "No other great ambition than hold the esteem of my fellow man." That's a good thing to keep in mind when you're going to the polls on Tuesday. We'll see you Tuesday night as we total those up. Have a great Sunday. Thank you for joining us.